What's up, guys? All right, DC Fandome just concluded, and I watched the full 3.5 hours of it, so to speak. And a lot was revealed, but the main topics here we're going to be talking about is the Batman trailer. We're getting a second trailer of the Batman movie by Matt Reeves, and it looks pretty sick. And we got a little glimpse of the Flash movie, something that we've all been wondering about. All that plus a whole lot of other stuff. Special episode of the Talking Talk Podshowcast here, DC Fandome version. I got some pizza sauce on me. I don't know how that happened, but anyways, let's get the show started, shall we? Let's go. What's up, everybody? Thank you once again for tuning in to the Talking Talk Podshowcast, your unofficial weekly pop culture podcast where I talk about the main topics of movies, TV shows, collectibles, what have you, anything in geekdom, pop culture from the past week, and I put my little thoughts and spins on things. But this is a special episode where I talk about everything that was revealed during DC Fandome. It literally ended like 30 minutes ago, so I am taping this on Saturday, 10/16. For those of you who may be watching on the replay, but I appreciate you guys as always for tuning in, and let's just talk about some of this stuff. But before I get into things, as always, you like what you see, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and for you audio listeners, or for those of you who want to listen to the audio version of the podcast, it could be found on your podcast platform of choice like Spotify and iTunes. So make sure to follow there and download the weekly episodes. So without further ado, first, I just wanted to give some thoughts about DC Fandome, the event as a whole. It's one of those things where when they did this for the first time last year, because of the current situation that's going on right now in the world, we weren't able to have in-person conventions and all that. So DC Fandome decided to be a thing where DC and Warner Brothers had a place to showcase a lot of the projects that they're working on, and the typical stuff that you would find at a convention, panels and what have you. And they did everything virtually. And when they did it last year for the first time, I felt like it kind of set the bar on how these type of conventions or online virtual cons are supposed to go down, because I think hands down last year DC Fandome won the virtual con showcase. I mean, for all the stuff that came out online, DC Fandome was one of the best that I've ever seen, and this year was no exception to that at all. If you had a chance to check out Netflix's To Doom event that happened several weeks ago, I felt like they took a lot of notes from DC Fandome and kind of created their own version of what that online virtual convention is supposed to look like. So DC's back again with their fandom for 2021, and it was 3.5 hours worth of so much DC and Warner Brothers stuff that they're working on. It's kind of easy to forget how many things that they have in the works or they have already been working on when it comes to the CW shows, or now all the HBO Max stuff that they're putting out there, the movies, the animated movies and everything. But they know how to milk things for sure. There's a lot of filler in there. They had a lot of panels. They had a lot of people hosting. And what I loved that they did is that they included a lot of hosts from all different countries. They really wanted to put out there that this is a worldwide global event, and DC fans span all across the world, something that I don't really see Disney and Marvel doing, acknowledging a lot of that stuff. And here they acknowledge it by showcasing super fans who became hosts during the program. And you could see a lot of the things that they are working on and a lot of their projects speak to a diverse range of cultures, which is something that is really refreshing and really great to see. But like I said, they do know how to milk things, and they kept the piece de la resistance, as I like to call it, the Batman panel, for the very, very end. But I'm not going to do that for this show. I am going to talk about the Batman right off the gate. So let's dive into it. So the way the panel started is that you had a nice little interview session with Matt Reeves, the director of the movie, Robert Pattinson, and Zoe Kravitz. And it was kind of cool, seeing them together. They were mentioning that this film has already been completed for some time now, but because of the pandemic, Robert and Zoe haven't seen each other in a while, and as they're seeing this footage coming out, they're getting to see it for the first time, really put together, and it's getting exciting for them. And just like for us, we're getting excited seeing all of it. Matt Reeves is currently in post-production right now. They even gave us a little behind-the-scenes look at the filming and some of the stunts and all that. So that was really cool. They also had an opportunity to talk about their characters and what they're bringing to the role. Zoe, who is Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman there. This is the first time we're seeing this version of Catwoman on the screen. So in a way, she can set the precedence on her own as to how this character is going to play out. And we do see a lot of Selena in this new trailer. So I'm hoping that this could be a reoccurring character if this, series continues, where it could be a very nice duo between her and the Batman, Bruce Wayne. So it looks really interesting. Robert was talking about, again, how he approached the role, and kind of nice little interesting insight too, and how he auditioned for the role too. I don't know if this was previously reported, maybe something I may have missed, but during his screen test, he was actually wearing the Val Kilmer Batman suit. And after first putting that on and kind of going through the test and the audition, he was very doubtful he could continue, because being in that suit, and if you've watched the Val Kilmer documentary on Amazon, even Val mentions that you could hardly move and you could hardly breathe, and your acting is very limited because all you're seeing is this much of your face and you're like stiff as a board, right? But then, they ironed all that stuff out and they worked it out. And Matt, ever since that moment where he saw Robert in the bat suit, knew right away that's the Batman and he can pull it off. And Robert also mentioned that, this version of Bruce Wayne we're getting here has already been a year into the role of the Batman, but he's still just a year away from the events that led him to become this character, right? So he's dealing with a lot of emotion still. He has a lot of aggression inside of him, and you could see like he's very angry. There's a lot of rage within him, and it is portrayed as you watch the footage in the trailer. So then they hit us with the trailer, and my initial thought is that this definitely looks like they're going gritty here. Very gritty, very grounded is something, again, that they mentioned, that this is the version of Batman we're getting, a more grounded version. Matt Reeves, if you have watched the Planet of the Apes movies that he directed, you could kind of get that sense that those movies had a sense of realism, but it was also very dark and gritty and broody at times. And it looks like he's bringing that same styles to this movie, and I really dig it. I really, really do. And look, for those of you who are still, wondering or questioning if Robert can do a good Batman and Bruce Wayne, I don't know how you could still think that after seeing this new footage, because he just looks menacing and scary, and again, you do see the rage and aggression within him. Even the way he approaches his fighting style. Robert mentioned that as he fights, you could tell he's taking things very personal with each fight that he's in. And that kind of comes across in the new trailer that we get. He just looks very, in the voice, again, he has a way of making a mark as Batman for himself. And I think it's really going to work out really well in this iteration. We get a small glimpse here and there of the Riddler, who I think is going to be the main villain. In a way, I get a sense he's kind of like the Joker in this movie, Very mysterious, very playful, but you could sense that there is danger. There's this element of evil there, right? He still does his like little riddle jokes here and there and clues. It really reminds me very much of, now if you've ever played the Batman Arkham games, I feel like he's a combination of the Riddler, Joker, and maybe Calendar Man. If you kind of put them all together, this is the version of the Riddler we're getting, and maybe a little like a splash of Scarecrow, right? Because again, it is very mysterious, and it looks like there's a lot of very ill intent behind his actions. And why is he so hard on into fooling around with Batman, right? So that was really, really good to see insights on. But I have to say, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. First of all, I have to remind myself each time that that's Colin Farrell, because he just does not look anything like him. He really transformed himself into this Penguin character, and the Penguin looks really, really interesting, and I'm kind of digging it. It's he's kind of like almost like a kingpin. He kind of comes across as that, and you could tell that they're going to have a lot of screen time together. It looks like the Penguin, I don't know if he'll be working in conjunction with the Riddler, or if this is just another villain that is going to be a major part in this movie. But I'm digging it. It looks really, really good. I think it's going to surprise a lot of us. I think Robert is going to knock it out of the park, and I can't wait to check it out. It comes out March of next year, so I am really, really excited for that. I can't wait for that to come out. We also saw Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon just a little bit, in little scenes here and there. But yeah, it looks great. Gotham, then the city itself and the landscape and the environment looks really dead on. Get ready. I feel like I said, and I know we say this a lot, that each iteration of Batman is a little bit more grittier, but when you compare it to, like, when you're going from the campiness of the Adam West Batman to kind of like the dark, but at certain times whimsical Tim Burton Batman, then you got the more mature Batman with the Christopher Nolan Batman, right? This one looks hardcore. It just looks really hardcore and very gritty, as I mentioned before, and very dark. So I am really all in, and I can't wait to check it out. So, again, as always, let me know in the comments what you guys think and all that. Is this something you're looking forward to? What are your thoughts on Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman there? Zoe Kravitz, how do you think that's going to play out? How do you think her portrayal of Selena Kyle is? I think she looks great, so I can't wait overall for it all. So the other big reveal, and something that a lot of us have been waiting for, especially how they were going to address it, was the Flash movie. So last year, I believe, if memory serves me correct, Andy Muschietti, who is directing the Flash, who was also responsible for the It movies, he gave a little speech about him working with the Flash and blah blah blah, but we didn't get to see Ezra Miller at all. Now, if you've been following the news for a while now, Ezra Miller is kind of in a bad space in the public eye. He has been heard saying some not so great things, and then he was caught on film choking some lady out in Iceland after an altercation. Now, we don't know if that was in jest. We don't know if that was legit. But what bothers a lot of us the most is that none of that stuff was ever addressed. We never heard from Ezra Miller about it. We never heard from any of his people about it. Warner Brothers have been mum on the whole situation. So I feel like that's kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So a lot of people were protesting for a bit, we don't want Ezra Miller's Flash anymore, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of a shame because honestly, when you look at his portrayal of the Flash in the Zack Snyder Justice League movie, I liked his character. He was kind of like this quirky, awkward dude that really came through for the team, and he was very enjoyable and entertaining. If you watch the Snyder Cut, he had a more fleshed out ending. He was a major, major role in the ending of the movie, and a major part in, coming through for the team and making them come victorious at the end there. So I was very, very curious how they were going to really address any of this stuff, if they were, right? The panel started off with Ezra Miller, boom, right in your face. And in real life, this guy must really be an awkward dude because even the way he dressed up, he just looks very unique and his own person, right? So, and he still, is kind of quirky, and he has his little jokes here and there, his little quips. But, he talked about that, unfortunately, we'd have nothing to show you guys that much of because we're still in post-production. We don't have a full teaser, not even a full trailer or what have you. But he worked with Andy to put something together to show us, right? And so we got like a sneak peek. I wouldn't even call it a teaser trailer. It's like a sneak peek. But it's what he said to close it out that I found really interesting. He said, we can't wait for you guys to see us next year, but more importantly, for you guys to see me. And I feel like that was his way of clapping back at those who have been asking for him to be removed, those who have been against him moving forward within this franchise and all that. So that, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Watch that little snippet right before they showed us the sneak peek. And let me know what you think, because the way I took it was like, ooh, hey, he's speaking out, and this is his way of kind of like, no, I'm not going anywhere, guys. Like, I'm the Flash, and I can't wait for you guys to see me on the big screen when the movie comes out. So regardless, we get the sneak peek, and it looks like it takes place in the event. It looks like it takes place definitely after the Justice League. At least it looks like it. And a lot of quick snippets here and there. So you can't really put together the full plot, but it does feel like he is, and again, this is nothing new because we kind of knew that this was going to be like a Flashpoint like storyline where he's going through alternate realities, multiverse, as you may want to call it. There's this one scene where we got to see him and another version of himself. So you get two Ezra Miller Flashes there, along with a quick glimpse of Supergirl. Very quick glimpse. But you see him going through, it looks like he goes back maybe possibly to his hometown at a different time or a different universe version. He's fooling around with all the different parts of his suits and all that. But the main scenes was when we got quick glimpse of Batman. Now we already know that Michael Keaton is going to star in this movie as the Tim Burton Batman, right? So we get a glimpse of the cowl from the back. So, and we get to see the Batcave, and the Batcave kind of looks similar to like the Tim Burton Batcaves when Keaton was Batman there. So definitely you see Ezra, the two Ezras, and Supergirl talking to this Batman, asking him if he's in, whatever that means, right? But I think the main tease, the cock tease, as I like to call it, was when you see Ezra Miller standing next to a covered vehicle. And just by looking at the outlines, you could already tell it's the classic 89 Batmobile. And that was exciting just to see. Now, they cut to black as soon as he was ripping the cloth off, but you do hear him freaking out and, nerdgasming as he sees what's underneath. And I do believe that is looking to be the 89 Batmobile, which is fantastic. And I'm excited just for that. I'm excited just to see the Keaton Batman return. What kind of role he's going to play in this movie, and all that. And I am very curious to see how Ezra Miller's Flash is going to play out, and I'm actually even more curious as to how audiences will take to it, because like I said, it is kind of unusual that with all this controversy that's like circling around Ezra Miller, that no one's ever addressed it. No one's ever, no publicist, no studio head has come out and said like, no, it's all a misunderstanding. What you saw there was, they're friends and they were fooling around. But if you look at that footage, it doesn't look like it was a joke. He looked dead on serious. The girl was laughing because she maybe thought it was a joke, but you hear someone in the back saying, whoa, hey, calm down. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that whole mess. But the Flash, yeah, I mean, it was good to see something. We got to see some footage there. Obviously, I want to see more. It looks like he's going to experience some doom in there, like maybe as he's going through the timelines and the multiverses, he's seeing glimpses of what could have happened. I mean, remember, if you go back to, I believe it was Batman v Superman, Bruce Wayne gets awoken by Ezra, as this weird dream sequence, but it looks like he's actually trying to break through the timeline and trying to warn Bruce about something, right? That was never ever revisited, so maybe this is something that we're gonna see in this movie. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about it. I am curious to hear if you are looking forward to this movie coming out. Again, looks like it's coming out next year. So I would say that those were the two main reveals that people were really waiting for when it comes to this DC Fandome event. The event started with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, talking about Black Adam. I mean, he's been talking about Black Adam for years and years and years, and they are still currently in production for that movie. And we got a little nice little tease of some behind the scenes, and then we got to see kind of like a roster call. Hawkman's in the movie. Of course, we have Dr. Fate played by Pierce Brosnan, which is fantastic. And then we have Cyclone in the movie and all that. But we did get to see some footage. They showed up a quick clip of what they're saying is one of the scenes in the beginning of the movie, and we got to see kind of The Rock as Black Adam doing some stuff here and there, and it looks pretty cool, but it's not enough for me to go crazy about. But it looks interesting, I mean, he looks more than his normal build in the costume. I don't know if it's just me or just how the costume makes him look, but he looks even more solid, like huge. He looks huge. I don't know if it's just the way the costume looks or what have you. I mean, yeah, The Rock is a big dude, but wow, he looked like almost cartoony big, in my opinion. But again, we'll see what happens when we see more moving footage of it as the time goes. And other things were revealed. I mean, guys, I am not going to go through everything line by line. Again, it was a 3.5 hour long presentation, but I'll run through my list of everything that was covered. A lot of the trailers and footage can now be seen individually on YouTube. They were releasing them the minute they were being announced and all that. So this is just going to be now a quick rundown of the rest of the presentation. So before I continue, as always, Talking Talk Podcast show can be found on YouTube at the Low Key Geek YouTube channel every week. This is a special episode, so episode 8 will be released sometime between today and maybe Monday. But do stay tuned to the channel. And again, podcast form, it can also be heard on your podcast platform of choice, like Spotify and iTunes. You could catch that every week as well. So, and as always, your support and appreciation is always greatly cherished, and I feel always humbled whenever you guys show your love. Don't forget to comment, leave feedback, let me know what you guys think, any notes or anything that you may want me to talk about and address in future episodes. And hit that like and subscribe buttons if you haven't done so already, and spread the word. Come on, let's build this community up. I enjoy doing this. I know a lot of you out there enjoy watching it. So it'll be great if we could have more of that community feel for the channel. So yeah, so let's just go down. Like I said, Black Adam. We got that in the very beginning. They talked about the Flash TV series and the new season coming out. I fell off on that series a long time ago. I think after season 3. The minute you start having everyone becoming Flash is just ridiculous for me. And I think that's one of the problems I have with like the CW shows, and that's why I don't really watch a lot of them. But they talked about this new costume, and they were raving on and on about golden boots and all that. So that was that. We did get to see a behind the scenes of the Aquaman 2 movie by James Wan, starring Jason Momoa. So we got some behind the scenes footage for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom there. Then that segued into Aquaman, King of Atlantis, which is his new cartoon on HBO Max that is streaming now. It kind of, I haven't seen it yet, but I have seen clips of it, and it looks very SpongeBob-like in a way, with some Adventure Time-like animation. So it's definitely more on the comical side of things. So that looks very interesting. Now, the next presentation that followed after that, I actually found extremely important and very, very well done. And that's the Milestone panel. The Milestone panel, you had some of the original founders there of Milestone in talking about, the resurgence of Milestone from last year, the titles that they brought back, like Static Shock and what have you. And then they were talking about bringing back another fan favorite comic series next year. The Static Shock movie is still in the works, so that's something that they're still working on. Michael B. Jordan is connected to that as producer. But the main announcement and the new announcement that they made today was that they are going to be working on a Static Shock animated movie. So they are full on in making sure that Milestone representation is out there, which I think is great and very important. And mainly because of this next thing that they announced is that they announced that they created this Milestone initiative, which is basically empowering and discovering creators of color. And, just allowing for more representation and diversity within the industry, not just in comic books, but like movies and TV shows and all that. So I thought that was a brilliant program. I think that's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a great step for a lot of the creators out there who maybe are having a hard time getting noticed or having a hard time getting their foot in the door there, and they just want to display their creativity in the craft that they love. So I think that is a really a wonderful program there, and I really love this panel that they had, and hearing them talk about everything that they've been through, and what they're trying to do to make sure that they do their part in making sure that there is proper representation in comic books and media. So Milestone, really awesome stuff there. Then they talked about some webtoon originals, one that they're working on already called Wayne Family Adventures. Basically what this is like, webtoons is this website where they take like comic panels and whatever, and they animate them to make it like a cartoon. So they're doing that. Then we got a new trailer for the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League video game, which since the last time we heard about it, and I believe this was during the E3 presentation in the summer, we got teased with a trailer, right? But we haven't seen any gameplay footage. Well, we didn't see any gameplay footage here either, but we got a new trailer So it's a lot of cinematics. We're getting a little bit more sense of the storyline and who's involved. They are going against the Justice League, but it looks like a Justice League that's been compromised somehow. So they're trying to put an end to that. But again, I've said this before. It's hard for me to get excited over a video game when I'm just looking at cinematics. I need to see gameplay footage. So for me, not much to talk about there. But to keep it along the Suicide Squad universe, then we got a nice little Peacemaker behind the scenes. Peacemaker is the limited series that is coming out on HBO Max. Well, I'm calling it limited series for now because they've only been talking about this one season. But during the panel, it sounds like they hoping that they could expand it and make it into multiple seasons. We'll see. But they had a nice little cast interview. That is very similar to what I saw them do at the end of the Suicide Squad movie when I went to the special screening for it. James Gunn had everyone involved, cast-wise, there, and he was basically just interviewing everyone, and I thought it was very well done. One thing that stood out for me is that one of the, I guess, villains or the people that Peacemaker will be going against is this person named Vigilante, if you want to be fancy like I am, is a very old school DC character. And I remember growing up, and I had this friend in school, and he swore that Vigilante was his favorite DC character and comic book character of all time. They got the look down, just like how he looks like in the comic books and all that. So this is going to be the first time we get to see Vigilante on screen, which is kind of fun and it will be exciting to see. And then they teased us with another nice little new trailer there. A lot of funny moments. Him and that eagle, priceless stuff. The comedy is still there. If you liked his character and how he was portrayed in the Suicide Squad movie, then you're going to get a lot more of that stuff. So be ready. This is going to be a show for you. So again, this is something that's coming out next year on HBO Max. Then they went into more of like the TV realm during this portion of the convention here. They talked about Superman and Lois. They gave a little behind the scenes there and a look into season 2. Supergirl, they're going into their final season, so they had a nice little farewell panel with the whole cast talking about their most memorable moments and everything and what have you. So I thought that was very sweet. They gave a little glimpse into Stargirl. I believe it was the final episode of the series, not the series, of the season, the current season. Again, I don't watch any of these shows. They're just not for me, but I'm sure a lot of you are into it. So let me know how excited you guys are for each show or which show you're excited for in the comments. Convince me as to why I may or should watch any of these shows. I want to hear a nice convincing argument or kind of like a nice proposal as to why I should watch these shows. Because when Titans first came out, someone I knew said you have to watch this, because if you were a fan of the Titans cartoon series, but you wanted to see a more mature adult version of it, you want to see and I've used this word already with the Batman, grittier version of Titans, then you got to check out this show. It's fantastic. And I checked out half the first season and I was like, all right. I feel like they were just on purpose saying shit and fuck and all that. And, they were trying to go out of the way to be adult. And that kind of threw me off. I was just like, no, I think they're hamming it up a little bit too much. I think they're really trying to establish themselves as, this is our adult version, this is the more mature Titans, blah blah blah, and it just didn't work for me. Now, not saying that I won't be interested in maybe revisiting it, but right now, look, there's also way too much stuff to watch and I don't have the time, so I have to be very, very selective when it comes to my TV shows. So, but again, if I hear a very convincing argument and proposal as to why I should watch any of these shows, I'll be in. You have my word that I will give it a shot. So then they talked about this new animated series that they're working on called My Adventures of Superman. So they showed some concept art there. Looks really interesting. Then they went into Superman in the comics. You had Jim Lee talking about it and all that. Now, the only thing that stood out was that they're changing Superman's motto. If you remember, or maybe you don't know, Superman's motto for a while was truth, justice, and the American way. Now, I don't think he ever said that in the comic, but Christopher Reeve said that, I think, in the movie. And that kind of like followed along with Superman for years and years and years. Now they changed it and they're putting it in the forefront that is now going to be truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. So something that speaks more to the current environment, and I think that is kind of cool. Then comes one of the weirder moments of the show. And it's the weird moments of the show really came into like merchandise tie-ins and collaborations. And this is one of two that I found very unusual. So you had Cam Newton, NFL player, football player, and apparently he has a line of hats that he's running. So he's teamed up with DC to kind of do a Superman collaboration of hats. Now I'm not talking about baseball hats, all right? I'm talking about legit like fedoras and hats, old-timey hats. And he's doing collaboration with Superman, and they showed some samples, and it looks kind of ridiculous. I mean, it looks like stuff pimps would wear. Just my opinion, it just doesn't look great. But hey, give it up, Cam Newton, being entrepreneurial like that. And landing a collaboration with DC. So go get them, Tiger. Next afterwards, they kind of gave us a new look at the animated movie called DC League of Super Pets. They promised that a full-length trailer will be coming out in November. This is an animated movie that is basically going to be filled with the pets of superheroes. Now, if you are familiar with the DC Comics, this was something that they've done as a run, or sometimes they will do some team-ups and all that where, Superman has a dog called Crypto, who also has Superman-like powers, and then, Batman has his own dog and all this kind of stuff like that. So they're doing a full-length feature film about that. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be voicing Crypto, and you have Kevin Hart who's voicing, I forget who Batman's dog is, but that one. You could see I really care a lot about this, but yeah, so that's happening. Doom Patrol, they talked a little bit about Doom Patrol. Season 3 is already available for streaming, but they looked at some of the final episodes for season 3, but they also announced that they have been greenlit for season 4. So I guess there's a lot of people out there who are loving this Doom Patrol series. I know I have some friends who do love the series. Again, it just doesn't work for me. So that was interesting just to see that. And then this is after the Doom Patrol portion. That's when they went into the Flash movie and all that kind of stuff like that. So after that, now you'll notice that I'm going back and forth between the movie and TV world and comic books, because again, DC is a comic book company, and it's nice to hear them talk about what they're working on as far as comic books and publication. We don't really get to hear a lot of that stuff from Disney and Marvel when they do their presentation. So it's nice to just have them mix it up, so that if this was a legit convention, fans will span all different types of media. So it's good that they're covering all of this for everybody, right? So the next one is about a publication called The Other History of the DC Universe, which is a deeper look at diverse DC characters in comics, and they highlight certain characters there. So that's something that is going to be coming out next year. something that looks very interesting to look into. Then they started to talk a little bit about the Sandman show on Netflix. We already got teased with that during Netflix's To Doom event, but we got the first look, the breaking news, the first look of Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer, the character Lucifer, and she looks amazing. And if you don't know who Gwendolyn Christie is, she was made very well known and popular from Game of Thrones. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing her portray this character. Oh, and she was also Phasma, Captain Phasma in Star Wars. What, you never saw her face, you just heard her voice, and she, the character was asked out quite a bit. So nothing big there or anything to really talk about. Then they gave us more looks into the Injustice League animated movie. Injustice League is based off of the video game franchise. So they did like kind of like an interview panel, and they provided a quick clip of how the animated movie is going to look like. It looks okay. I don't think it's going to be one of their stronger animated movies, and DC has a full history of very strong animated movies. They were, pretty much ruling the animated realm as far as direct to DVD movies for comic book characters. Until Marvel's What If, Marvel had nothing that they could compete with as far as what DC was putting out there. So this one looks okay. Nothing that I'm that thrilled about. Then one of my favorite panels was the Blue Beetle movie panel, because you had the writer and director in one room, and then you had the main character who'll be playing Blue Beetle himself. He's one of the lead characters from Cobra Kai, and I always have a hard time pronouncing his name. Is Duelo Matinea, or okay, you know what? I'm not going to butcher it any further. But he's a really cool kid, and you could tell he's extremely excited. But the great part was the brotherhood that you had between the writer and director. They look like just normal bros, man, and they were just in love and happy that they're getting to work on this property. They're happy that they're finally putting Hispanic representation on the big screen as in a form of a superhero. So you can tell that they're super excited, super giddy. They were hugging each other, and they're like, "Oh, I just love you, man. I love this bro right here, man." And I thought that was so great. That was really great. It was very touching to see that, and it's just great to see people who are involved in projects that they are so passionate about and that they love, especially when there's such a higher meaning behind it. Kind of the same feeling I got when I watched Shang-Chi. Like it was like the first time we got to see an Asian-centric cast and an Asian superhero on the big screen, comic book character, which was very meaningful. And the same reaction a lot of people had when they saw Black Panther for the first time. So I can only imagine how it's going to be like when Blue Beetle hits the movies, with that Hispanic representation. We're going to get a little glimpse of that with Eternals, because Salma Hayek is one of the main characters there. But to have a standalone movie for yourself and to have that representation there, that's going to be huge. And you could tell that they are taking this project on personally, and they want to make it the best thing ever. They're still in pre-production, so they have nothing to show. Even Duelo, the very lovely young gentleman from Cobra Kai, said he hasn't even seen the costume yet. So, but he's super stoked and can't wait. So, I think that's going to be really, really fun. Then another one of the panels that I really loved was the Smallville 20th anniversary panel. Wow. It's kind of crazy to think that Smallville came out 20 years ago. Smallville was the DC and Warner Brothers test pilot. That was a series that they really tested to see and make sure and see if this type of TV programming will work. And it did. And it ran for 10 seasons, which is extremely long. And it's what really spearheaded the start of the CW DC universe. Because after that, the next thing we got was Arrow, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Because then floodgates opened up, and the shows just kept rolling in, right? So it was really cool. They had an interview with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenblum there, and their chemistry is still amazing. They both look also great. I really wish we could see them back in the DC world at least, somehow, maybe like in a multiverse kind of version of something. But I think Welling can still put on that suit and be a nice Superman there. And Rosenblum just looks like he's a fun dude. But they had like a little trip down memory lane about the series. They had a lot of people who couldn't be there, kind of did their own, filmed their own interviews, and kind of said like, oh, they loved working on the show and they miss Tom and Michael and all that. And they also announced that this is the first time that Smallville will be coming out on Blu-ray. You know, I it was such a quick glimpse. I don't know if it's coming out at the end of this year or next year, but it will be the first time that it's going to be available on Blu-ray. So Smallville. Were you a fan of Smallville? Did anyone else watch Smallville? I mean, I watched it. I thought it was great TV at the time. Again, this was 20 years ago, so there wasn't much of that happening, right? So let me know. Then going back to publications, they're talking about this new super team called Monkey Prince. I think it's already out now, but they're having a new version coming out next February. It's characters that are based off of that very classic Chinese folklore story, Journey into the West, which so many stories have kind of got inspiration from. That's how Dragon Ball got their inspiration from and all that. So the artwork looked actually pretty interesting. So that's something that's coming out. Then they talked about the Gotham Knights video game. They had their own little panel. They showed us another new trailer. They did a little behind the scenes and how it was to kind of incorporate the Court of Owls storyline into this video game. But again, no new gameplay. We got a glimpse of some gameplay during the E3 event in the summer, which was like really nice to see, but nothing new shown here. Just again, more cinematics and more talks about putting the story of the game together. If you haven't read the Batman run that involved the Court of Owls, you should definitely check it out, because it's definitely one of the more interesting, more recent storylines that was very well done. So I am very curious to hear how it's going to play out within this video game. Then we got a Batwoman TV panel. They gave us a little season 3 preview. They had a fan voting for a digital webcomic series, and the one that won was Robins, which I guess it will be a digital comic that talks about all the Robins teaming up together and then finding out that there's this one female that claims that she was the very first Robin, and they're going to investigate that. They made this funny joke about the last time fans voted on anything that had to do with Robin. It didn't really turn out that great. So it was great to see the opposite here, which I totally agree. Then we got a nice glimpse of this new Catwoman Hunted animated movie that's coming out next year. We got a nice little trailer about it. It looks very anime inspired. And it looks like she'll be teaming up with Batwoman in this animated movie, so it looks great. Then they ran through a list of other animated feature films that they're working on for next year. No real trailers or glimpses, just titles, right? So we're getting Constantine, House of Mystery, Teen Titans Go, and DC Superhero Girls team up. We're getting a new Green Lantern animated movie, and then we're getting Battle of the Super Sons, which will be their first ever CG animated movie coming out next year. And then they also announced that Batman Long Halloween Deluxe will be coming to Blu-ray. So they're taking part 1 and part 2 and combining it into one Blu-ray collection. And if you haven't seen Batman The Long Halloween, you got to check that out. It's probably one of the best Batman animated movies that they came out with. It is available for streaming on HBO Max, both parts 1 and 2. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Then back to more DC TV, Legends of Tomorrow. I guess they're hitting their 100th episode, so they're going through, kind of a retrospective there. Then they're working on this new preschool animated show called Bat Wheels. That's right. Cars meets the Batman universe. Bat wheels. Okay, moving on. I mean, the concept art that they showed, just picture in your mind bat like the Batman vehicles in the Cars universe. And you got your show right there. All right. Spotify, they are doing audio series. They have one called Batman Unburied. They were revealing some of the cast that was hired on to play some of the characters for this audio series. But the main reveal was Winston Duke will be voicing Batman for this audio series. So that's really cool. Next is part 2 of the weirdness and the oddity of the collaborations when it comes to merchandising. And Puma is teaming up with Neymar for a Batman collaboration. Awesome. They didn't show us anything of how it's going to look like. We got a little logo, but that's it. So, yeah. Let's see how that plays out. Then they had like a small little Batgirl movie panel where, you know, Leslie Grace, who was cast to be Batgirl, she was one of the main leads in The Heights, and I think she's a fantastic young actress, and I think she's going to knock it out of the park. Then a nice little panel there with the writers and director, and they're talking about how excited they are to go into production. They haven't even started yet. They're still in pre-production here. But, you know, they talked about, you know, their excitement and all that. Then the aforementioned Titans, they had their own panel, and then we got an announcement that season 4 was greenlit. So there are a lot of people still watching this show, and they're going to move forward with another season. Then we got the Harley Quinn animated panel. I have to check this show out. This is the one show that people have been recommending that I really actually do want to check out. I've heard convincing arguments, proposals that I need to check this out. And the clips that I've seen were pretty damn funny. So I really need to check this show out finally. I just have to just sit down and just binge it, because season 3, they're saying it's finally coming. They know it's taking a long time, and they kind of poked a lot of jokes about it and everything. They said that season 3 completed like 20 years ago or what have you, and we're only just getting around to talk about it now. But obviously because of, you know, current situation of the world and what have you, that's what's causing all the delays. But they really are excited and can't wait for season 3 to start. Then they talked about, this is probably one of the more interesting things that I heard during this whole panel, and that's Batman Caped Crusader. So you got Bruce Timm, who was the creator of the original Batman the Animated Series, which is by far one of the best animated series I've ever seen. Period. Full stop. I mean, if you've never watched it, I plead and I beg you to check it out, because it's not just a great superhero comic book character animated show. It's just a great animated show, period. The subject matters, the drama, the storylines, the character building, all fantastically done. It's what gave us Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was invented for this show, and then she blew up, and then now you see her in comic books, you see her in live action movies, video games. She has her own animated show now. You know, this animated show was revolutionary for the time, especially even in the way that they created the animation for it. Not to go into like a deep rabbit hole about it, but they used black canvas and they painted over black canvas to give it that dark feeling of Gotham, which was never done before, very unheard of. So Bruce Timm is teaming up with J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves of The Batman to do a reimagining of the Batman in animated form. They're definitely going to give it a more noir feel to it, and it's going to take place probably in like the 40s, or it's going to have like that 40s feel to it. So it looks great. It looks like the older version of Batman with the very long ears on the cowl, kind of like the 40s, 50s Batman. So they're taking that concept and they're turning this into animated form. And if it's anything like how the animated series was, then I'm all in. I'm extremely excited about this. Then they announced this new DC Heroes and Villains mobile RPG game. whatever. Young Justice season 4 is now streaming on HBO Max, and I totally even forgot about this. So I'm glad that they reminded me, because Young Justice was an amazing animated series. And I really love the characters there and the storyline. So this is something I definitely want to check out. It's called Young Justice Phantoms. Then they talked about a new HBO Max show, limited series that they're working on called DMZ. Ava DuVernay is attached to direct this series, which is fantastic because she is a great visionary and director. It will be starring Rosario Dawson and Benjamin Bratt. So we got some glimpse, some photo stills of how this show is looking like, but it was basically Ava and the writer talking about this show as a whole and the casting. Then it turns out Ava is still attached to another series called Naomi, which is a series that's based off of the comic book of the same name. So again, it's just nice to see more representation from the comic book world being transferred onto the big screen, whether it's movies or TV. So this looks like it's going to be a nice show for a younger generation, but a generation who needs to see representation on the screen. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and it looks interesting. So then we got Shazam Fury of the Gods panel, which is the Shazam sequel. So you had Zachary Levi there talking about it, and they showed us a lot of behind the scenes footage. No real movie trailer teaser type footage there, but just a reminder that this is a movie that's coming out next year. Then they had a nice long Wonder Woman 80th anniversary panel, which I thought was really great. It's kind of crazy to think about how these characters are getting these type of anniversaries already. We've had recently the Batman and the Superman anniversaries, and now it's Wonder Woman's 80th. So they had a nice little panel with Patty Jenkins and Linda Carter talking about the importance of Wonder Woman to generations. Linda Carter kind of slipped out that Wonder Woman 3 is being worked on, and that's something that we've been talking about, but I don't think that's a surprise to really anyone there. And then they talked about a lot of the meaning behind Wonder Woman, and again what that means to females, especially little girls growing up. And it was just nice to see Linda Carter still attached to this icon that she portrayed back in the 70s. Again, I've mentioned this before, a sexual awakening moment for me as a kid was Linda Carter as Wonder Woman on TV. So and it shows you how much she meant to me. She no, in all seriousness, Wonder Woman is a very important character. I keep talking about representation, and she is probably by hands down the first female superhero to really make it big and really make a huge impact to young girls, women, from generation to generation. I'm glad that she's finally getting a lot of spotlight. I'm glad that she's finally had 2 great movies, 1.5 great movies put out there. But looking forward to more coming from the Wonder Woman world. They talked about this new publication called Trial of the Amazons. It's a comic book series that's coming out in 2022. Then they talked about Sweet Tooth, the Netflix show. They confirmed that season 2 is coming, so that's something that's going to be coming through. Something that I found extremely surprising, and again, I don't know where I've been, but Pennyworth, the TV show that's supposed to talk about a younger Alfred working with a Thomas Wayne in London and all that, they're working on season 3. When did this series come out? Am I in the dark here? I had no idea that this show was already out. But they're working on season 3, and then they have announced that it is going to be an HBO Max series exclusive now. So both seasons 1 and 2 will be available early in 2022. So where was this show featured? Was this being shown on the DC Universe app or something? Because that would make sense why I wouldn't have heard of it, because I've never used that app. But yeah, it was a huge surprise to me there. But yeah, Pennyworth season 3. And then we had a nice little talk between Jim Lee and the host of the con, and they were running this he's been teasing a lot of people about something, and he was releasing artwork on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff like that. And then he revealed that it was his version of the Infinity Crisis cover, the infamous cover by George Perez. But then when asked, what does this mean? He said some stuff that they bleeped out on purpose. It was like a nice little bit that they had there. But could this mean that there is an Infinity Crisis project he's working on coming up in the future? Meh, but maybe. Looks like that could be it. And then we got to the Batman panel. So there you go. That was the 3.5 hours of DC Fandome, and that was my rundown of it. But the most important thing was we got the Batman trailer, and it looks fantastic. I really can't wait. And then we finally got first looks at the Flash and Mr. Awkward Miller there doing his thing and clapping back, in my opinion, clapping back to the general public on recent comments and what have you. But let me know what you guys think about the DC Fandome this year. Like, what were some of the things that you were excited to hear about? What were some of the things that you were looking forward to from everything that was covered? What are you most excited for coming out in the next year? Let me know in the comments. And that's pretty much all I got for you today on this special episode of the Talking Talk Show podcast. The regular episode that is scheduled to come out will be coming out shortly, so do stay tuned for that. No matter what time of the week it is, make sure to always allow some time for yourself. Play a favorite video game of yours, watch a favorite movie, read one of your favorite books. Give yourself some time to relax and recover from your busy week, because nothing is more important than your own mental health. And make sure to always pay attention to that. And as always, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. And I will catch you all next time. Peace, everyone.